Christopher Hitchens, when people meet you for the first time, what's the first topic they want to talk to you about?
Well, I think well, at the moment it's certainly religion. Whether or not we're here because of a divine plan or because we are evolved creatures. And I think you can tell a lot about somebody once you hear them say that they think they're not here because of biology, they're here because God wants it. Mr. Bush and Mr. Blair, I'm sorry to say, both decided that it was a little easier to frighten people than to persuade them. This is a common political temptation. What I just described to you would make it possible to define Saddam Hussein as a permanent threat, it seemed to me.
Let me just ask you a couple of questions. Iraq will be a functioning democracy a decade from now?
There's every reason to think that it could be, yes.
Lebanon?
In some ways, Lebanon already is a functioning democracy.
And will there be a Palestinian state?
Yes, there certainly will be a Palestinian state. There should have been one 2 decades ago. There will be one a decade from now.
But that's in prospect?
Yes.
Good. You were in Cuba as an agricultural volunteer helping to plant coffee. Now, what I want to excavate here is what on earth were you thinking? By the time one Englishman had arrived in Cuba, 1 million Cubans had fled. What were you thinking?
I was a dedicated Marxist. I was a member of an organization that was actually anti-Castroite organization. If you're really interested in my personal history, you have to get some sectarian minutiae in. It was a Luxembourgist Trotskyist organization, and we sent a delegation of people to see whether or not the Cuban Revolution was, as advertised, a break with the Soviet model, a new start and all of that. And this was remembered shortly after the death of the much controverted Ernesto Che Guevara. And it was a very interesting time to be there because I was there during the invasion of Czechoslovakia, which was the point at which it became evident that Castroism was not going to live up to the advertised hopes. So it was a...
You were how old, Christopher?
I was then 19.
Are we at war, Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Christopher?
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. All right.
It's a war because it's with an idea, and as the Speaker says, with a global one. There are people now in Nigeria having to face the fact that a minority of the population wants everyone to live under Sharia Muslim.